Hello and welcome back to my Node series of videos where I tackle the FreeCodeCamp timestamp microservice project. If you haven't seen any of my videos already, I would suggest that you go back to video 0 and check out how we set up the development environment for Node.js. In the second installment, we set up routes for the Node project, and in this installment, we'll set up a basic index.html and a basic style sheet, and I'll show you how to tell Node to serve or deliver those assets to the client, to the browser when they're requested. So let's get straight into the project. The environment setup straight down to the introduction to route parameters can be found in video 0 and video 1. So again, go back and take a look. The next thing we want to do is serve up a basic index.html that explains the microservice that we're creating, the timestamp microservice. And a good example of this is just a basic index.html that may or may not look like this. This is what FreeCodeCamp is using for their timestamp microservice index.html. So let's get into some code so I could explain exactly how this works. Here we are in the terminal. Let's actually run our development server. And if you don't know how this development server is working, I actually went into it in the second video. Basically, I'm using nodemon to serve up the index.js. So let's visit local 8000 forward slash. This is the basic route, right? This is the index route, and it shows timestamp microservice works. What we want to do is send the user an index.html or an HTML file that goes into that basically displays in their browser. So let's actually create that HTML file in a views folder, and we'll call that index.html just like that. Let's create a basic. Ooh, boy, I already forgot my HTML. Head, right, and there's the body. We'll have a paragraph that reads I am index.html just like that. Great. Now let's go into our server code and actually add some code. And instead of responding with timestamp and microservice works, we actually want to respond with an entire file. And there's a function on the response that is called send file. What we want to send is the current directory, and let's use templating here. The current directory /views /index.html. So that points to our index.html. So when a user goes to /, our server responds with the index.html file that we just created. Let's go back to our browser and refresh. I am index.html. Great. We just created a HTML file for our users. So we can now go ahead and how do we say? We can go ahead and edit this index.html here. And the first thing we probably want to do is we want to include a link to our CSS. Now, the way we do that is by using a link tag, and we'll link it to style.css. The rel is a style sheet, and the type is text/CSS. Now this is basic HTML. So if you're unaware of what's going on here, I actually suggest you go back to FreeCodeCamp and review their HTML section. On top of that, I want to add a title, and that title will read timestamp microservice. Right, let's create a style.css in a public folder called public, and we'll call style.css just like that. And just for fun, we'll make the background here, the background color red. Just to prove that it's working, this make it a big, bold color. Obviously, we're not going to keep the background color at red, but I just want to show you exactly how, demonstrate that this is working. Now that we've created a public folder with our CSS inside of it, we have to tell our server, we have to make the CSS available to the HTML file. We have to tell our server that we can send files inside of our public folder to users that request it, to browsers that request it. And the way we do that is app.use. Now remember, app is our Express framework here. App.use express.static, and we'll show off that public folder. Now you'll notice here that I do not have an express variable, so let's actually extract the require express, cut that out, and replace that with an express variable that we'll declare up on line 1. So that'll be the changes necessary, and we'll go back to our browser, check index.html, and you'll see that the background is red, just as we said in our style.css. Now go ahead, take a second, and style the index.html and add some instructions to the user on how our app should work. I'm all done with my HTML and CSS. Quite honestly, I'm not a great designer. I have some really basic CSS that simply centers the content, and I added these instructions here that I took off the FreeCodeCamp example. However, on the bottom I did add a list of examples, and these lists actually hit our Express API, our Express server that we created. And you'll see that the href is not a full URL. It's actually a relative URL to be able to point users to our running server. So if we look at the index.html in a browser, you'll see that I can click. It'll open up a new tab, and to open up a new tab, just use target equals underscore blank. Just like that, it gives the example when there is nothing passed to API timestamp, when there's this string passed, the Unix integer, and some garbage passed. Right, so here we are with today's date, Christmas, this Unix integer here, and garbage, which gives us the error. So hopefully you have a similar index.html setup, but that's really it. That's how we serve up our assets, our static assets. And when I say static assets, I mean HTML, CSS, and maybe images. Just to recap, all we changed today was the GET request to the index route, and we are sending them the path to the index.html. We're sending them the actual file to the browser, and we're exposing our public folder where our style.css actually lives. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If this video taught you anything, please click the like button. Please click subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you want to tell me how amazing I am, go ahead and add comments into the comment section on YouTube. Until next time, I'll see you.